This is Julien, and I'm here in Zurich, Switzerland, and this week's book is The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. Okay, now in all honesty here, this is probably one of the most influential business books I've ever read, okay, and it's tremendously affected the way I built my brand, say, in dating advice or the way I do business now. And if you haven't checked it out, get the fuck on it. Okay, now one excuse I hear is, well, the book is 4 years old. It was written in 2011. I'm not sure if the concepts are still relevant today, but they are. Okay, in reality, they were relevant back then and they're even more relevant now. It's one of those books where you'll hear him say, I predict this will happen, and guess what? Everything he predicted happened. Okay, and one thing too I just want to mention before we get into the bulk of the content or the video here is that I actually read this book a few years ago. Okay, I read it, it blew my mind, and I started putting it to use, and rereading it now is actually a huge slap in the face. It was a massive reality check, let's just say, because I forgot a lot of it. It was a good reminder, and when it comes to reading books, it's very easy to just check them off the list, like, oh, I read this one, I know it, and then you just put it away and never read it again. But with these important books, like the ones that just really blow your mind or change the way you think or the way you go about doing things, reread them. Okay, don't just think that you know them, because they're at the forefront of your mind for a temporary amount of time, but then they just kind of disappear. Okay, so for me here, I'm like, holy shit, big slap in the face. It's definitely gonna change the way I kind of move things forward, and I'll explain in which way in this video here. Enjoy. So the first thing to understand is that the world of business is coming full circle. Okay, with the rise of the internet, there's a certain shift that is happening. Okay, and funny enough, we talked about this shift in last week's book, The Education of Millionaires, and how this shift has affected, say, education, college, or different employment opportunities. But in this book here, he dives deep into how this shift has affected businesses and consumers and the relationship between the two. Okay, and how businesses nowadays are expected to behave very differently, okay, than they had to behave in the past. And it's pretty much going back to how businesses used to behave during the day of your great-great-grandparents. Where there were these small communities, small shop owners, where everyone knew each other and everyone cared about each other. Okay, and you could ask someone, ask any quote-unquote old person about what they really miss back in the day or how things were, and they'll tell you. It's like, I remember a time when things were a lot slower. You would take time to actually enjoy different moments. You would say hi to your neighbors. You would actually know your neighbors. Most likely if you're watching this video, I doubt you know your neighbors, especially if you're in a big city. You probably just walk past. Probably don't even say fucking hi. It's pretty insane. Back in the day, you'd go to, local shops. Say you went to the butcher, you would know the person who worked there. He would know you. He would greet you by your name. He'd make you feel like a friend. He'd make you feel like family. Your parents would know his parents. Your grandparents would know his grandparents, so on and so forth. And there were these tight bonds, these tight relationships. Okay, and this year, it's not just because people were extremely nice. It's just that for a business back in the day, say you're that local butcher, and say you were mean to a customer, or some customer just left with without having the best experience, just a little frustrated or a little upset, he would tell his 10 friends. He'd just go to the neighbors and be like, dude, that fucking butcher, I hate him. He did this shit. It was horrible, the worst experience of my life. And they would spread the word, and they'd spread the word. And instead of just losing one customer, he would lose 10. Okay, and then 10 more, and then 10 more. And that could very mean going out of business. Okay, so that's just the way it worked. Okay, now what he says in this book here is that then that disappeared. Okay, it's like it went from everyone knowing each other to everyone trying to distance themselves as much as possible from each other, to the point where you're in your house, little white picket fence, you don't really know anyone, you try to stay away from everyone, a lot of, just isolation, and the more isolated you were, that's like the sign you've arrived. Big companies started taking over the small ones, companies like, say, Safeway, Target, and you'd start going to them instead of the local butcher, the local baker, so on and so forth. And people started prioritizing profit over principle. Manners disappeared as well. If you go to Safeway, Target, or any of those large companies, like say Walmart, first of all, you're not going to know the store clerk personally, or the cashier. It's not like you're like, oh, hey, how's it going? And start chatting. And secondly, it's not going to be the most pleasant experience. You're not going to walk in there and feel like you're family or friends. Most likely it's next, 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 and that's all you get. You'll never hear someone like, man, my shopping time at Walmart today was just so magical and fun and blissful. Sometimes there's not even a single word exchanged. Sometimes you won't even hear next. It'll just be like pay. And you'll be like, thank you. You'll hear a grunt, maybe. That's the most you can get. Okay, it's very different than back in the day. Even if you want to, call one of these companies, you can try this. You can call them. You're not going to talk to an actual rep. Sometimes you can, but it'll usually take like an hour to get to them. But you're going to call and it's like, hey, press 1, press 2, press 3 for this, press 4 for this. There's, again, this isolation that occurred. And there's nothing really you could do about it. Even with the internet, when it first started, you could go on these websites and just click around and there was no contact. There just isn't. And this is how things were for a long period of time. Now, in 2003, okay, and you write this down, Web 2.0, now known as social media, emerged. Okay, and this started changing everything. It went from, the silent, anonymous, private internet, and it suddenly turned extremely chatty, personal, and revealing. It's like Facebook emerged, MySpace emerged, Twitter emerged, and suddenly, everyone's private lives, it's like just white picket fence isolation was just all public. You go on Facebook, you know what your neighbor's doing again. You may not talk to them personally, but at least you can like their updates. You would see the new lawnmower they bought. Everything just started being put out there, and people just started talking again. Okay, and with this social media, there's a gigantic power shift back to the consumer. Okay, things changed drastically. And what he says here is that customers now have more direct daily contact with other customers than has ever been possible in the history of the planet. Okay, there's more sharing of information, more gossiping, more exchanging. There's a lot more engagement going around. And guess what? Word of mouth is back. Okay, and it's back fucking tenfold. Social media has transformed our world into one great big small town. And this is huge, okay? It's that shift that I was talking about. It changed drastically, and it's now dominated by the strength of relationship, the currency of caring, and the power of word of mouth. If customers now, they have a complaint, let's just say you go to Walmart and you had a bad experience, it's not like you go back and then you tell your 10 neighbors, and guess what? It doesn't affect anyone. It doesn't fucking affect Walmart. Now, you can have a stronger impact. You post, say, an angry tweet or something, Facebook update of you just being frustrated, and people can start sharing it. People can start comparing notes. If there's other customers that are upset, they can see that you're upset, and they're like, oh my God, me too. And you can create this snowball effect, and guess what? You have some power. Now there's actually something that you can do. And that little status can be passed along forever. Now, as a little side note here, okay, don't get all paranoid like, oh my God, he's right. This one tweet, this one Facebook status could just ruin me. How can I just shut everyone up? Okay, instead, think, how can I encourage more and more people to speak up positively about me? Okay, don't view this as something bad, this is something good, and be on the fucking offensive. Okay, but understanding this is key. And what he says is that only companies who can figure out how to mind their manners in an old-fashioned way and do it authentically are going to have a pair of competing in today's business world. Okay, if you keep ignoring, say, customers, putting this wall between you and just being very isolated from them, you're going to go out of fucking business. Okay, now building on this, what he says is that everything changes except human nature. Okay, and with human beings, given a choice, people will always rather spend time around people they like. Okay, and the same applies with business. People would rather buy or do business with people they like, people they know, versus people they don't know or people who they dislike. Okay, and how do you know if you like someone? Well, guess what? You talk, you exchange ideas, you listen, they listen, and after a while, a relationship forms. Okay, that's how it happens in relationships as well as business relationships. And up until now, there was no way of doing so. You just couldn't form these one-on-one relationships of you just engaging with your customers because, first of all, there wasn't internet and there were just too many. You're a company, you're like, well, what the fuck? You're Safeway. You're like, I can't do this. So I'm just gonna fucking ignore. Fuck it. This is how things are. But things are now changing, okay? And finally, with social media, it's made it possible, okay, for businesses to engage and interact with their consumers, and it's possible to now scale this and develop all these different relationships, okay? There's finally a way to really connect with your customers, an opportunity to hear what they want, what they think, how things went, how your product worked or how it didn't work, and there's finally a chance to create personal and creative campaigns that do more than shove your message down your customers' collective throats. Okay, there's no more need for focus groups, which, as a little side note, they work, but they're not as good, because here's an interesting one. As soon as you ask for someone's opinion, they're already filtering their answer. Now you just log on to Facebook and you see very fast what people are saying about your product. And it's authentic, it's real, okay? And guess what? Even more than reading about that, you can respond, you can engage, and now you can develop these relationships. And once a customer decides that they like you, you are golden. They're gonna shop with you, even if something else, the same product, let's just say, could even be cheaper. Okay? They would rather go with you because there's a certain relationship, a certain bond. And not only will they shop with you, word of mouth. They're going to start telling their friends about you, and your business will grow and grow and grow. Okay? But this is key. You have to start developing these one-on-one relationships. You just can't ignore, you just can't put this wall between you and your customers. Now, if you want them to care, okay, and this is key, care first. Okay? You have to invest in the relationship first. That's how you do it. Okay? That's how you build those strong relationships. And what he talks about here is when he started his company, Wine Library TV. Okay, and what he did is he went on Twitter and he started looking up all these tweets about wine. He'd look hashtag Chardonnay, hashtag Shiraz, hashtag Pinot Noir, so on and so forth. And what would he do? Okay, he wouldn't just start putting promo out there like, oh, check this out, check this out, check this out. He would simply start caring. Okay, he'd look up all these tweets, there'd be questions, and he would just start answering all the questions, offering advice for free. Okay, and he would just keep doing that. He wouldn't mention he had a wine company. He wouldn't mention his company. He would just start caring, giving, so on and so forth for a long period of time. Okay, until guess what? His name started popping up. You'd look up wine, his name would be there. You couldn't look up wine and not see this guy's name. Okay, and then after a while, he's like, you know what? Check this out. I recommend this bottle. I run a company. You know what? Free shipping. Why don't you just try a bottle out? You know what? Free bottle. Check this out. Okay? And he would care so much that those relationships would build and everyone would start caring about him. Okay? And that's how you do it. He sits down here. He says caring first, not selling first. That's how to build your brand. You have to care first. And if you want to compare it to, okay, as a little side note to how I built my brand, say in dating or this brand here, what am I doing? Caring first. That's really it. This is the way I modeled my business, is after this here. In the dating industry, okay, this is like years ago, when I first started out, I didn't just pop out of the woodworks with a product. I'm like, hey, you know what? This is me, buy my shit. Okay? I didn't do that. What did I do? I started up 2 YouTube channels. I started up a Facebook page and a Twitter, and at the time a blog as well. Later on, Instagram as well. And I would just start putting content out for free for you. I just started caring. Like, hey, check this out. You know what? I'm not selling anything. Here, free advice, free content. More free content, more free content. Better free content, more in-depth free content. Here's an extra little bonus for free. I'd start answering questions and I'd just start popping up everywhere. I even put out this video, and you can probably find it on YouTube. Search Julien Blanc Manifesto, and you're going to see a video that's probably an hour and a half long with almost 1 million views. That there, okay, I remember when I was releasing it, I could have easily expanded on it and made it a product. That was probably like a year in, I released that. But instead, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Here's even more. Here's even more. And this is what created all the hype. This is what created the relationships between me and my customers. If you're watching these videos here, most likely there's a certain relationship. You feel like you know me, you care. I'm not like this blank face, okay? And I didn't put a product out for over 2 years. I did this for over 2 years until I put my first product out, okay? And then guess what? Of course, people purchase the product because there were these relationships. Okay, and even if someone else put a similar product out, there's not that same bond, okay, in human nature. It doesn't change. And people just bought that product because they cared about me, they liked me, and in a way they wanted to thank me for all the free content and all the caring that I did. That is how you do it. Care first, don't sell first. Similar to this channel here. I'm not selling anything right now at all. These videos, all this, free, free, free. This is me caring, and this is what you have to start doing, okay? And what he says here too is don't calculate as well, okay, the worth of a customer. Just start caring about everyone, okay? Big ones, the small ones, it should just be the way you do things, okay? It's not something you turn on. Make every single one of your customers feel acknowledged, appreciated, and heard, okay? It's like, even if someone comments, and, being quite honest here, this is something that I've not implemented fully. Like if there's comments, what he talks about here is respond to every single comment, and you can actually try this out. If you look him up on Twitter, okay, Gary Vaynerchuk, I think it's like GaryVee on Twitter, just tweet something. Just be like, hey, love your book, done. Or like, hey, this guy named Julien made a book review of your book, check it out. You can do that. And most likely he's going to respond to your tweet. Okay, now, being realistic here, it's probably not him. Okay, I'm sure he does a lot, but he now has a team. But he responds to every single one. Okay, every single one. And this here is something I'm going to start doing more and more here in the future. I actually started doing it on the last couple videos when I was reading this book. I'm like, whoa, like it was that reminder, like get on top of that. But, okay, this is how you do it. It's like make everyone know that you're caring and listen to them, and you have to have these personal one-on-one relationships, okay? Exceed expectations or lose, okay, he writes this down too, where standards have been raised. People now expect you to give a damn about them. You just can't ignore them. You can't just be like, here, buy my shit, and, just like, fuck it. Like, you're just this, again, anonymous face. You have to care about them, and you have to prove it, okay? And he says, of course, as I mentioned, by listening, engaging, giving them what they want when you can and when you can't, okay? They just want to be heard and taken seriously. Now, what does caring look like, okay? And what he talks about is if, back in the day you had a company and you were out in the street, or even nowadays, if you're a business owner, you're out in the street and you hear someone complaining about your service or your product or your company, okay, about something, say you messed up, you're probably going to go up, talk to them, figure out what went wrong, most likely apologize, and figure out a way to fix it. It's like, hey, sorry this happened. Maybe the product was like a defect. It's like, hey, here's a new one, free shipping, of course, and here's a coupon for a discount on any future purchase. Okay, this is what any business person in their right mind would do. And what he says here is, guess what? If you do that in person, why would you not do that over the web? If you're reading through comments, you see someone complain, address it. Don't ignore it. Address it. Respond and engage in a conversation and try to find a solution. Try to fix it. Okay? Not only will you turn that customer around, but other customers will see that and they'll respect you even more for it. Okay? And he talks about too, and we'll get to this, where a fear the companies have with engaging with customers, or say putting up even a page where customers can post comments and engage these conversations, that all this negative shit's going to pop out, And what he says here is that, guess what? A customer complaining publicly, somewhere where you can see and fix it or try to find a solution, is a lot better than a customer just not putting anything out at all, just being frustrated, you lose that person forever, or complaining somewhere else where you don't see and you just can't control it or you can't respond to it. So what you need to start doing here, okay, is partaking and investing in social media. Okay, and this is something that a lot of companies resist, okay, and we'll get into some of the reasons why here in a bit, but you need to start going where your customers are, okay, engaging with them, starting these conversations, caring, and building these relationships, okay? And why social media instead of, say, buying banners or TV ads? Well, simply because that's where people are. Even when someone's watching TV and let's just say the commercial pops up, like you finally bought an ad, you're extremely happy, do you really look at the fucking ads? Like the last time you were watching television and an ad pops up, did you actually sit there and you were like, wow, a car driving up a mountain, Matthew McConaughey, so on and so forth? No, okay, probably the second that fucking ad popped up, you grabbed your cell phone. Most people, even when driving, they're on their cell phone, which is horrible. But let's just say you're in the passenger seat and there are the big billboards on the side of the road. Do you really read that, or are you in your phone? Okay, your head's in your phone. Even walking down the street, your head's in your phone. You're always looking at your phone. This is where people go. This is where they are, okay? And you need to be there too, okay? That's the reason why. There's a huge culture shift here, okay? Texting isn't just for kids anymore. Everyone is just glued to their iPads, their iPhones, their computer. They're talking to everyone there. This is where you look up even reviews. You're in a store, you're about to buy something. You're like,
Let me Google it. Let me ask someone on Facebook about it. Let me post a little status. Let me tweet about it. Let me read some tweets about it. That's where you need to be, okay? Social media is where everyone is. If you're not there, you're not even in fucking business, okay? And understanding this, what he says is that companies who want to compete are going to have to change their approach to everything. Okay, their hiring practices, their customer service, their budgets, so on and so forth. And another key thing to understand when doing this, okay, and he stresses this a lot throughout the book, is that intent matters. Okay, and what does that mean? You have to actually care. Okay, you have to authentically care about the service that you're providing. Okay, and really view it as I am providing this service, I am helping someone, then I am selling, and I'm trying to get money from someone, okay? And people can sense, okay, if you're bullshitting them even online. You can't just view it as some quick, technique or some trick to make money. It's like, you know what? You have to show them that you care. Okay, well, let's try to show them that we care so they buy from us. You have to actually care, okay? This here is about having real connections, okay, with your customers, real interactions, exchanges that evoke real emotions, and it just can't be fake. Okay, so you have to commit to this. This has to be your new way of thinking. It can't be faked. And what he says here too is that if you're not passionate enough about what your company does to find fuel for conversation every day for hours on end with as many people as possible, maybe you're in the wrong business. Okay, maybe it's not for you if this is something you have to fake. Okay, this should be your passion, and you should love sharing and giving, okay, providing this service to your customers. Now, I mentioned before, okay, we'd address why certain businesses resist, partaking or investing in social media, and there's 11 excuses that he lists out here. And the first one is there's no ROI, okay, and that is, of course, return on investment. And he talks about here how a lot of people are obsessed with numbers, okay, and it's not necessarily because they matter. It's because it matters to other people, say their superiors, say shareholders, so on and so forth. And it's tough, with ROI. It's like, hey, you're investing in social media. Where are the fucking numbers? Okay. And what he asks you here is, well, what's the ROI of any customer caring? Online or offline, in person? Is there a formula for this? Of course not, but we all instinctively know that caring and developing these strong bonds and relationships will help business. We all know this, even though there are no technical numbers or formulas. Okay, and building on this too, what he says is that most people turn to friends and family, okay, for advice when making purchasing decisions. And where have people been talking to their friends or family lately? Social media. Okay, that's the importance there. Most people spend more time talking to their friends or family online, on Facebook, so on and so forth, than in person. Okay, it's insane not to be there. Okay, and without social media, you and your customers are relegated to strangers. Okay, and there's just not going to be that same connection. Okay, without it, you are literally fucked, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. Okay, and you need to start getting these customers, developing these connections, and even turning these customers, and he talks about this, into advocates. Okay, people are going to go out and just talk and spread your message, your culture, your company to other people, convert them to customers and then to advocates, so on and so forth. And this is how you grow your brand. This is how you build your business. Excuse number 2, okay, the metrics aren't reliable. And this is more so back in the day. This one's not so relevant today anymore. But basically it's, the tools for tracking and measuring social media initiatives, they're just not sophisticated enough or reliable. Maybe other companies may be tweaking them online. But this has actually grown throughout the past 4 years. If you go on Facebook, you can easily track everything, and that trust factor is no longer really an issue. Excuse number 3, social media is still too young. Okay, and what he says about this one here is that being the first to market in this hyper-fast world is crucial to making an impact. Okay, you can't just wait anymore. And what he says is that companies can't buy volume on social media. Back in the day when, let's just say the radio, emerged for the first time, if 2 big companies, started putting ads out, one could wait. It's like, okay, let the other one take over. And the other one could start investing in radio ads for years. Okay, and after a while, the other company's like, you know what? Radio is, it's here to stay, and now we kind of got a gist of how it works. Let's buy a ton of airtime. And they would, And because they're just blasted so much, so often, they would, be back in the fucking game. But on social media, you just can't buy social media time, okay? And because it's about developing these different relationships with your customers, okay, that takes time. And say your competitor jumps in before you and starts developing relationships, you can jump in later, but it's too late, okay? There's already the bond. You can be like, oh, hey, how's it going? I'm here too. And they will ignore you because they already like your competitor, okay? So the sooner you get in, the better. You can't fucking wait, okay? Number 4, social media is just another trend that will pass. And what he says here is that things have been so predictable and stable for so long that, we tend to think, oh, this is just gonna be a quick little thing, okay? But no, it's here to stay, okay? And it's not so much social media is gonna change, okay? It's like, yeah, the platforms may change, but those relationships are here to stay. They're not going anywhere, so get the fuck on it, okay? He says, you're not jumping off the train, okay? It's not like the train's gone, you're just moving from car to car. Okay, those relationships move from platform to platform, but social media is here to stay. Number 5, we need to control our message. We talked about this a bit before, where a lot of businesses resist social media because customers may post negative comments. Okay, but on one hand, that's good because you can address them, you can fix them, and you can show that you're a company that cares. And on the other, it shows that you're fucking real. If you look up a company now and every comment or rating or review is just 5 stars, 5 star, 5 star, it's a little sketchy, okay? It's not human, let's just say. So get it out there, and the sooner you get it out there, the better. He also talks about how some companies are afraid of putting it up just because, if they've waited for so long, let's just say that they put their Facebook page up and the likes just won't match how big the people, the brand people think the brand is, let's just say. It's like, oh, we're just this big brand, this will ruin it. But guess what? Okay, the sooner you do so, the better. People will forget, and it's not about having a ton of followers, it's about having high quality followers. Okay, and don't fall into this trap here. People tend to think quantity over quality. It's like, I need 1 million subscribers. But guess what? Okay, if you're in business, it's better to have, a couple hundred subscribers that are loyal and that are going to buy your product than 1 million. And as a little side note here too, okay, in terms of how I built my brand, my goal was never to get 1 million subscribers. Okay, I wanted quality subscribers who resonated with my message. Okay, this is why, for example, I haven't done, many, let's just take dating advice. What's the dating advice video that spreads the most? Ridiculous pickup lines. It's like, what, go and talk to people using Harry Potter lines, or I'm going to go talk to people using, there's like nerd lines and stuff like that. I could have done that, and guess what? By doing that, those are the videos that get shared a lot, and people just start liking and even subscribing to those. Is one that gets, millions of views. But in terms of what I'm trying to accomplish here, okay, being very transparent, those subscribers for me are not quality subscribers. Okay, for example, someone could send that to their mother. Their mother's like, that's funny, Harry Potter, subscribe. Okay, that person there is not necessarily going to resonate with the deep dating advice content, or in the future, say, purchase a product. Okay, it's not a quality subscriber. So the key here is you're not in the quantity business, you're in the quality business. Zone in on those people there. Okay, zone in on the people who your message is directed to. Get that deep bond, okay, versus those superficial bonds. Excuse number 6, okay, building on this, I don't have enough time to keep track of what every Joe or Jane says, and I can't afford or don't want to pay someone else to do it. Okay, and what he says here is that if that's your view, okay, you're fucked. You don't have a choice in the matter here. This is something that you have to do. Okay, and if you're a one-person company, you're gonna have to make time to track conversations yourself because you simply can't afford not to. Okay, you should be online on these platforms, reading and engaging with your customers. You just can't not do that. Okay, now the plus side though, okay, and what he says here is that doing it yourself is actually ideal. Okay, why? Because if you've established, okay, a tone and voice to your brand that is to your satisfaction, you'll create a solid foundation for someone else to build upon that when you do eventually delegate the task or share it with someone else. okay? Because if you do this right, you will need help, okay? So if you're starting out, the fact that you're doing it you can add your voice. It's like it's actually you, the person who's caring, the person who started this all. And then when you hire people, okay, they'll kind of see the way you're responding, the vibe that's being put out, let's just say, and they can adapt onto that. And it's a lot easier to create. Okay, so this is what I said too when I talked about how you could tweet Gary Vaynerchuk and most likely you'll get a response. It may not be from him, it may be someone else, but it's modeled after, when he was doing it on his own in the very beginning. Okay, but this is something that you have to do. Find a way, delegate an hour here and there and start engaging in those conversations. Okay, and as I mentioned before, this is what I'm going to start doing more moving forward. This is what I've kind of slacked off on. It's like I've put the videos out, I responded here and there. I'm very active and present on all these platforms, but there aren't enough actual conversations. On Facebook, for example, I should be commenting on every fucking comment. On YouTube, I should be answering every fucking comment. Even just a thanks, just something to acknowledge and show that, guess what, I care and I appreciate you and thank you for fucking commenting. Thank you for watching. And for all the previous comments I didn't do it on, I didn't answer yet. If you're watching this now, thank you, okay? I care, I appreciate you, thank you, okay, really, thank you. Now, next one, number 7, we're doing fine without it, okay, and that there is a losing argument. It's like you may be doing fine now, but you are gonna go downhill with time. And what he says too is, how do you know you're doing fine if you're not listening to your fucking customers? Number 8, we tried it and it didn't work. And here, okay, that's largely due to a lack of patience. Most companies try it for 6 months, sales didn't spike, it didn't go viral, and they pat themselves on the back for trying, and they're like, hey, maybe it's just not for us. Okay, and what he says here is that social media is a long-term play. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's something that you're going to get a return on in a longer period of time. Okay, and this is actually linking back to what I did in the dating world. Is I was with Owen, okay, who I work with, and when we started putting the YouTube videos out, there wasn't a huge impact. It's like we just started doing those. Okay, this is like a few years ago. We just started putting the YouTube video out, and people were like, "Oh, cool videos," but there wasn't a significant return, say, on our sales or on any numbers. So it's like business was the same. But after 6 months or so, or after a year, then you start seeing the difference. Slowly, for example, when I gave a seminar and I asked people, okay, how do you find out about the seminar? There'd be a few like, oh, from YouTube. Or how do you find out about the company? From YouTube. And as the years, went on, like more and more people from YouTube. And nowadays, guess what? Most people from YouTube. Okay, so this is a long-term play. You have to commit to it, you have to be patient, and you have to be strategic. Number 9, he addresses this here. The legal issues are too thorny. Okay, for example, if you're in the medical, pharmaceutical, or financial sectors, it's like you have to be very careful of what you put out there. And he says that although, some sectors have to be more careful than others, you still, have to trust, say, your employees, trust yourself, and still allow certain freedom. Push the envelope as far as you can. This can be 100% regulated. Okay, the lawyers you hire, for example, their job is to keep you safe. It's like, so, oh, don't do this, it's too risky. What if your employee tweets something bad? So what he says, it has to come from the top, from the CEO to say, hey, this is what we're doing, deal with it. And then from there, it's like, there may be some mistakes here and there, but oftentimes you can fix those, but you gotta value that realness. Okay, and this is key too. If you put in all these rules, and he talks about how sometimes, there are protocols where if an employee has to tweet something, they have to send it in, it has to get checked up on, and then it goes back, and that could take 12 hours. And by that time, the answer won't be as genuine, real, or authentic, and the conversation will be gone. So there has to be a certain amount of trust, and that also links to who you fucking hire and who you fucking trust. Okay, number 10, it takes too long to pay off. And as I mentioned, it's a fucking marathon. And what he talks about here too, okay, as a little side note, is that the two platforms, okay, traditional media and social media, can complement each other. And what he recommends is whatever budget you have towards traditional media, take a little bit of that budget and allocate it towards social media. Because yeah, it does take a long time. He doesn't really argue with this one. It's like, yep, it's a long-term play, but you can just keep doing what you're doing while just taking a little bit and putting it into social media, okay? Because, traditional media still has value, okay? However, oftentimes, and he talks about this, it's just overpriced. It's just not where people go anymore. And if you pay like thousands for a fucking billboard, you'd be better off investing those thousands on Facebook, for example. So with the long term, it takes too long. Yes, it takes a while. Just do it strategically and start moving towards social media. And last thing too with traditional media is, and this is kind of like the way we tend to view it, is like, man, if I can just get on this billboard or have this front page on a magazine, I'll be set. But all you'll probably get is a little spike, and then it'll die down. With social media, okay, you just keep it going. You just keep riding that wave. You keep the conversation going over a longer period of time. And number 11, okay, social media only works for startup, lifestyle, or tech brands. And obviously that is false, okay? This applies to all brands. Just go on Facebook right now and you will see all types of Facebook pages. I don't care what type of business you're in. You have customers, and it's your job to create those one-on-one relationships with them and form those bonds. Okay, so these here are the 11 excuses. He then dives into how to create a thank you economy culture, say for your business. And the steps he advises to take are: number 1, begin with yourself. Okay, and normally for this type of change to happen, it has to come from the top. Okay, the CEO is the person who can tell everyone, like, hey, this is what we're doing here. And by beginning with yourself, he talks about to, ask yourself who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, what your message is, what your service is. Number 2, commit 100%. Okay, and this is something you have to do now. Commit for the long run, because you are going to encounter a lot of obstacles. Number 3, set the tone. Okay, send a strong, direct message about your intent so everyone is on the same page, and it has to be clear. Number 4, invest in your employees. And most people here, this is interesting, fear investing in their employees because they fear their employees will leave them, and then that investment will be lost. And what he says is that if you really care about them in their future, oftentimes they will stay with you, because similar to a customer, that same bond forms. Okay, and 2 things that make employees happy, and he compares this to his business, is 1, being treated like an adult. Okay, so what does that mean? Basically, until they prove that they can't be trusted, they should be allowed to manage their job as they see fit. Okay, and number 2, his or her individual needs are being met. Okay, and then of course you have to apply the thank you economy principles externally as well as internally. And a great example here is Zappos. Okay, the way Tony Hsieh went about it, if you want to look into that. Number 5, trust your people. Okay, we talked about this before. Like, what if my employee does this? It's like you have to trust them. Make good hires, okay, and let them be themselves, which then communicates that same authenticity. And number 6, building on that, of course, be authentic, okay? And this is crucial, especially the way social media is evolving, is that things are becoming more and more transparent. You can't hide anything anymore, and if you aren't authentic in your message and what you're putting out there, it will come and bite you in the ass, okay? Transparency is the way of the future. And, last few notes here is that, we're riding a very fast train. The changes here are only the beginning of the transformation yet to come. Stable isn't coming back anytime soon, okay? And here we're just so used to running short sprints instead of marathons. This is a huge mental shift you have to start making. And lastly, innovate or die, okay? You have to start thinking ahead. Businesses are going to have to start getting creative and personal. Okay, like this is the only way to survive. You're going to have to start topping your efforts and caring, topping your efforts in the way you satisfy your customers, and if you don't, you will fail. Okay, so this here is really the main message of this book, and my advice to you is really take it to heart. Okay, if it resonates with you, read it. He has some amazing other books too, and a lot of what he does is very similar to what I do. He has a show on YouTube as well, and I think this is the topic of his new book that will come out. It's called the Ask GaryVee Show. Check that out as well. And the same thing with his YouTube videos, and he did this with Wine Library TV. It's very similar to what I'm doing with these videos here. They're just purely offer value, care, start conversations, put your personality out there, show people who you are, let them, get to know you. And this is huge with businesses. It's like, we try so hard to be formal. It's the same with in different relationships. We try to be cool instead of being real. But the business, the same thing is applying with the internet and the changes that come with it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment here below what you thought of it. questions. Let's get a fucking conversation going, and check the comments for next week's book. Until next time.